Disney today sues DeSantis over gay government retaliation.
All right, let's get back to Julia Borson. We've got more news on Disney. Julia.
Governor Ron DeSantis is responding to Disney filing a lawsuit against him, saying the state is, and Disney's suit said the state is retaliating against the company for expressing an opinion. DeSantis' communication director just issuing a statement saying, quote, "We are unaware of any legal right that a company has to operate its own government or maintain special privileges not held by other businesses in the state." Going on to say this lawsuit is yet another unfortunate example of their hope to undermine the will of the Florida governors and operate outside the bounds of the law. Melissa, of course, this is all about the special tax district, which Disney has maintained in the state of Florida, overseeing its theme parks for quite some time now, for decades now. And this has been all battled over following the media giant saying it disapproves of some of Florida's policies, particularly the so-called Don't Say Gay bill.
All right, Julia, thank you.
Well, in this breaking news, this afternoon, the Walt Disney Company filed a lawsuit suing Governor Ron DeSantis and state officials in federal court, accusing them of engaging in a, quote, targeted campaign of government retaliation, end quote. In the feud over the Reedy Creek Improvement District, the entertainment giant filed a constitutional challenge that may go all the way to the Supreme Court over the power and limits of a Florida governor and a prospective use of that power to propel them for political gain to become president of the United States. Meanwhile, DeSantis' handpicked Tourism Oversight Board yesterday declared Disney's agreements seeking to retain control over development in Central Florida were null and void because the previous Disney-friendly Reedy Creek Improvement District Board failed to follow procedural requirements and properly notify affected property owners of the development agreements. The state legislature is expected to pass a law before the end of this session that allows the tourism board to declare all former agreements null and void. Disney said in the suit that, quote, a targeted campaign of government retaliation orchestrated at every step by Governor DeSantis as punishment for Disney's protected speech now threatens Disney's business operations, jeopardizes its economic future in the region, and violates its constitutional rights, end quote. In the federal lawsuit, Disney's lawyers say the agreements were lawfully approved and DeSantis and his allies are, quote, employing the machinery of the state in a coordinated campaign to damage Disney's ability to do business in Florida because it opposed what critics called the Don't Say Gay law, end quote. A DeSantis spokesman, Taryn Fenske, said this afternoon on the lawsuit, quote, we are unaware of any legal right that a company has to operate its own government or maintain special privileges not held by other businesses in the state. This lawsuit is yet another unfortunate example of their hope to undermine the will of the Florida voters and to operate outside the bounds of the law, end quote. Disney has set up a constitutional free speech challenge in the lawsuit by saying, quote, there is no room for disagreement about what happened here. Disney expressed its opinion on state legislation and was then punished by the state for doing so, end quote. Disney filed a lawsuit against DeSantis, the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District's Board of Supervisors, and other state officials. The suit asked the court to block the Oversight Board's actions, voiding the development agreements and a state law putting DeSantis in charge of the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which oversees government services for Disney World. It alleges the state violated Disney's First Amendment rights and clauses dealing with contracts, due process, and the taking of private property without just compensation. Disney said it wanted to avoid fighting with Florida's government, but had no choice because of, quote, a relentless campaign to weaponize government power, end quote. The lawsuit drew swift reactions from politicians and Disney analysts. Renowned Disney analyst Len Testa called Disney's decision to sue DeSantis and the state a significant escalation over matters the corporation must think are vital to its business interest. He said, quote, this is huge. This is not your typical dispute with the local taxing authority or the City Council of Anaheim. Suing a governor in federal court is unprecedented, end quote. And then former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, a GOP presidential contender, told Fox News today she would welcome Disney's, quote, hundreds of thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in her state. Well, Nikki Haley's quotation is the chop licking that we know is going on all over the country, which is why this fight makes no sense. The only thing that I think that the governor and the radical GOP that has been doing this in reaction against the gay community and Disney's support against the gay community is this idea that a company in Florida is uncontrolled and that Disney is the only one, and they're not aware of any laws or rules that created that. That is flatly wrong. In the 1960s, the governor of Florida and the state legislature created the Reedy Creek District specifically to attract Disney and Walt Disney personally to come to Florida. They created the Reedy Creek District to attract and build an unprecedented, at the time, attraction in acreage, size, and a tax base beyond anything that had ever been seen in the world, and created some autonomy independence of Reedy Creek for them to regulate the land, the services, fire and police protection, etc., etc. It operated for 54 years. And then Governor Ron DeSantis, preparing for running for president of the United States, then throws his hands in the air and saying, this is unprecedented and this doesn't exist and we're not aware of any rules, which is flatly not true, because those rules of law existed for 54 years.
And the last 3 of those years were Governor DeSantis's term. And nobody was upset about that for the first 3 years. Everybody was just fine with it. And this sets, and I'm sorry, Bobby, but just real quick, I want to say this sets a really bad example for Florida. Because obviously, the thing is, Nikki Haley can salivate all she wants. Disney's not going to pick up its, 83 parks and 42 hotels and move them willy-nilly to another state. Disney's not going anywhere. But it is a deterrent to other large corporations that want to come in here. You know, the mayor down in Miami, or Miami-Dade, I can't remember, the mayor, Suarez. He wants to, make that a crypto capital of the world. But I'm just saying that, if they want to try and bring these things in here, who's going to believe them? Because everything can change from one administration to the next, even from one Republican administration to the next. I mean, my God, we've got Ron DeSantis in here making Rick Scott look reasonable and thoughtful.
And trustworthy.
It's another instance of where radical GOP operatives decided that there's free speech for me, but not for thee. Right now, Florida legislature is trying to restrict how schools can approve speakers in state universities. They're trying to establish an office where they are going to force state university campuses to accept even the most heinous speakers, hate group speakers, from speaking in the name of free expression. But when a corporation uses the same right to criticize Ron DeSantis is like, you better shut up or else I'm going to take away or null and void a contract that has governed that area for 54 years. Yeah. In other words, as long as the speech aligns with Ron DeSantis, he is okay with it. But when it doesn't, apparently now we have to all shut up.
And it's so surprising that a governor, a Republican governor, who is supposed to be for big business, to go after a corporation, one of the largest corporations in the state of Florida, that generates over $75 million and pays over $1 billion in taxes, regardless.
The most LGBTQ.
The most LGBTQ plus people. And not only that, it extends to ESPN and ABC. Like, it's not just Disney. It's a major global corporation. And for him to go after and attack a corporation like this is just childish on his behalf. And I really hope that it plays out that he gets embarrassed by the mouse.
But I think he picked the wrong person to go after. He picked the wrong organization to go after, right? Like, come on, as an ex-bully, you know who to go after in the schoolyard. If I saw Disney in the schoolyard with all those people, I would not be messing with Disney. You know what I mean? So kudos to Disney, okay, for putting their money where their mouth is. Because honestly, mom and pop organizations don't have the funds and don't have the time to fight someone like DeSantis where Disney does.
Right.
Yeah. It's final thought relates to this point. For LGBT community, Disney, to all of the points that we made last spring of 22, Disney, come on, why aren't you there? Why aren't you there? We know in April of 2023, they're there.
Yeah.
They are there. They're taking this argument of don't say gay and what the governor is doing. They could have capitulated. They could have declared a peace treaty. They could have met behind closed doors and said, okay, we will quietly back away from this and you quietly back away from this. And they chose not to do that. Disney's actions today is, along with their business interests, is a stand-up for LGBT. They're especially their own LGBT employees. And if there is an Achilles heel to Governor Ron DeSantis, we probably have watched the initiation of it today. That's why this, as experts say, is a big deal. And Nikki Haley, running as a GOP, is licking her chops. Come to South Carolina. There's no chance. But her desire of saying that is an indication of how much trouble Ron DeSantis is in now. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.